Hey everyone, welcome to my new video. Now is the time for the most requested scene of all, the Avengers scene that I did last year. We won't be able to go into all of these details, but I will do my best to give you all the possible information I can so you can reproduce the original image. And if you're new to the channel, welcome, and if you like these kind of tutorials, hit that subscribe button and the bell button so you get notified when I release something new. And now let's get to it. Let's start a new Blender file and we can start modeling. We'll press Shift A and create the plane and then scale it 4 times. So we have some diorama dimensions ready. And now let's create a new one that will serve as a base for our building. So Shift A, plane. And now let's look from the top. So press 7, G, move it in place. Let's go into the edit mode, so tab in and press S to scale a little bit, something like this. This can serve as a base for the building. Now we can just rotate and extrude this up. And now let's duplicate this face, so press Shift D, enter to duplicate, and then P and enter to separate. Tab out, select the new face and tab in. Now we can select the face, press S to scale it outwards. Okay, just like this. And now let's extrude this. So press E and go up. And now let's just do several loop cuts. So press Ctrl R and let's do 4 cuts. So it'll leave us with 5 segments altogether. Right click to release. And now we can select this back side and move it to front. So we don't need it so long. Something like this. And now we can shape the building a little bit more. So 2 for edge select, alt click this loop and we'll move it on Y, so G and Y. And now we'll extrude some parts here in the back. So face select, number 3 for face select. Select this one and these 2 and let's extrude them, so E then Y. And extrude them like this. So we basically get to a point where the original building was. And now we can rotate this a little bit, press G then Z to bring this a little bit down like that. And now extrude again, so E then Y and extrude like this. And here we will want to skew this. So we can just enable auto merge here, select this edge, press G twice and merge it there. Don't forget to disable the auto merge. Okay, so this will be shape for our building. We can look from the side by pressing number 3, go to the wireframe view. We can make some small adjustments like this, so it's not so long. Okay, I really like this so far. And we can now select the front face here, or rather select the 3 of them, press G then Y, move it like this, and maybe this single one a tiny little bit, so we have a radius there. So this is the base for our building, and if we look at our reference, it's a little bit smaller on the diorama, so we can obviously make it a little bit smaller. Let's tab out, select these 2 objects, and let's make this smaller. So we have a space for these other things as well. And since we left the origin point there, we can scale it like this. Now let's create a new plane again. So Shift A, plane. And this will go underneath the building. We can leave the origin point in the center. So go to the top view, switch to the wireframe, tab in, and let's move this and scale it up. And we can make use of the vertex snapping. So switch here to the vertex. You don't need to enable snapping. And now just select these 2 vertices, press G and X and hold Ctrl to snap it here. Same here, so G and Y and snap it here by holding Ctrl. And now we can freely move here. So G then X. And here we'll want that landing platform. But before we create the platform, we want to have a road here that goes around that. So let's first create that, and we can use the original plane here. So let's just select this edge on the side, press Shift D, then P to separate. Tab out, select the new object. You will see it highlighted like this, tab in. Now go to the vertex select and let's press double G to slide this vertex here. So this will be the width of our road. And now we can select this edge, press E, then Y and extrude this. Okay, and let's move the cursor here. Shift right click. Now select this edge and we'll use spin tool. So locate the spin tool right here and do a spin like this. And we can go all the way here. Just like that. So this will be base for the garage entrance or something like that. And now we can switch back to the selection tool. And since the cursor is still here, we can now tab out, press Shift A and create a circle. Let's enter 24 segments here. And this everything will serve as a scaffolding from now on. So we can now select the ground face, move it down a little bit. Something like this, not so much. Tab in, select all, press E, then extrude down a little bit, so this will be our terrain. And now press A to select all and Shift N to recalculate normals. Just so we're safe in that regard. Let's now select the road template and we'll Shift D to duplicate this. And let's extrude the Boolean object that we'll use to cut into the terrain. So tab in, select all, press E and extrude down like this. Okay, confirm. And now we'll tab out, shift click the terrain and press Ctrl minus. Don't forget that you need to activate the Bool tool add-on for that. So activate the Bool tool add-on and hit Ctrl minus. But I think the normals are messed up on that object, so select the wireframe, the bounds object here, tab in, we can see the mesh is still there, select all and press Shift N. And I feel this touching here wouldn't do much good, so let's press G, then X and move this face out, and this one as well, so G then Y, move it out like this, and I think this will work nicely, but we can go the opposite direction and move them inside, so we have a little bit of an inset there, just like this. So there's a cut in our terrain and we can now select our road object, tab in, press G, then Z and move it down a little bit, confirm with the left click, and now we can bring it down, so press 2 for edge select, select this far edge, hit O for proportional editing, now G, Z and move this down, and we can make the radius for the fall of higher with the mouse wheel, so something like this. And I think this doesn't go so deep as we want, so you can always select this Boolean object and move it down more, and then move this one here. So let's bring it down a little bit more. Okay, I feel like this could work. Let's now select the foundations object for the building, tab in, and we'll extrude this down, and this will all start to make sense after a while. And now let's make a cut here and one here, so we can move this face. So select and G, then X and move it. We can disable proportional editing by pressing O, G, X and move it like this. So there's that angle. And now control click here to select the loop and move it here, so we can actually do some structural changes there. And now just select the top faces, so drag a selection here, you can shift click there, and we'll bring this a little bit up. Now we can inset and extrude this down. Okay, just like that. And here we can create some kind of a garage entrance, since we have now geometry there. So just press I to inset, 2 for edge select, and press G twice to edge slide. And now we can extrude this inside. So this is all starting to come together a little bit better. Now tab out, select the road object, and we'll extrude some curves here. We can duplicate this once again, so Shift D, enter. Now tab into the new object, go to the edge select and select these side edges, so Alt click here and Shift Alt click there. And now we'll press E and Z to extrude, like this. And now press S, Z and 0 to scale this on one level. And now press GZ to move this down. Okay, just like that. Now we can delete the road faces. So click this face, Control click this face, and X delete faces. Select all, press Alt E and extrude along normals, and let's extrude this inside. So we have these nice little curves there. If it doesn't match here, you can always tab out, select this face. Here you can click this little plus to create a new orientation set. And now if you select this face, press G, and you can now switch in relation to the orientation of that face. So it'll be pretty easy to do. Okay, let's switch this back to global. And now we can finish with the landing pad. So select the circle, tab in, select all and press F to fill. And we can move this down. So G then Z to move it down. And now let's extrude. Something like this. We can maybe make it larger. Select all with A, S and Shift Z to scale on X and Y plane. And let's check the reference a little bit. Okay, I think we're really close here, so we can maybe make it a little bit lower, like that. Now select the top face, inset, extrude, and now do one more extrusion, and once again like this. And now select this outer ring here, so 2 for edge select, Alt click the loop, Shift D, P, enter to separate. And now select this loop, select all, E, Z to extrude up. Now press S to scale. Okay, maybe not so much, so we can press G twice to edge slide. And we can now Alt click the inner loop and press X and own the edges. That'll leave us with this wireframe, so we can easily apply something like a skin modifier. Tab in, select all, press Ctrl A to make the radius smaller. Okay, I feel like that's alright for the landing pad, and now we can finish the building and the terrain a little bit more. So select the building, tab in, go to the face select, select these front faces, press I to inset, and let's extrude on the y-axis, so E then Y, extrude. And now we can press Shift D and P to separate again, and select these new faces. Let's make some additional cuts, so Ctrl R and make 3 cuts here, like that. And now we can tab out and add the wireframe modifier to this. And we can play with thickness a little bit here, so they'll give us this nice window structure. And we can do the same stuff for this part of the building. So tab in, and first of all I want to slice this up, so let's do 5 cuts here and maybe the same amount here. And now we can just go to face select by pressing 3, Alt click here to select the loop, Shift D, P to separate, you get the drill. And now we can add a wireframe modifier here as well and adjust the thickness. And now let's finish up with the roof. First of all, let's tab in and we'll select this outer loop, so Alt click here, and we can see the loop goes all the way here, which we don't want, so maybe the better way will be to click the edge here and Control click the edge, and now we can the edges like this, so we are adding to the loop and using the pathfinding to connect. And now with all of these edges selected, just press Shift D and P, enter to separate again, tab out, select the new object, tab in, and we can select all. First of all, add some skin modifier again. So I will be using quite a lot of this stuff here, and now select all, so press A and Ctrl A to make this smaller. So we have a nice little curve there. And now just finish up with some detail on the roof. Here we don't need to go into much detail, so there will be just some boxes and stuff. So Shift right click the cursor there, add the plane, tab in, let's make this smaller. SY to scale on the Y axis maybe a little bit. Now G, Shift Z to move on the plane. And let's extrude this. Tab out, and now we can Alt D to link duplicate around. Select both of those, maybe Alt D, Shift Z somewhere here. And we can rotate this, so R, Z 90 degrees. Press G, then Shift Z and make this smaller a little bit. And now Alt D again to create another link duplicate. Something like this, we can maybe move it here. I'm not really following this right now. I'm going a little bit random here, so let's create a plane there. Something like this, and I can make a duplicate out of this. And now maybe we can Shift right click here, press Shift A, add a single word. If you don't have that option, go ahead and enable extra objects add-on in the preferences. Now switch to the vertex select, press E and X to extrude on the X-axis. Right here, E and Y, and E and X again. Okay, select all, EZ to extrude up, and now Ctrl R to do some cuts like this, and we're just eyeballing it right here. Okay, and now go to the edge select by pressing 2, alt click the bottom loop and press X and only faces, skin modifier, select all and press Ctrl A to make this smaller. Okay, so that's for the building details. And now we'll just finish up with the terrain. So select the terrain object, tab in. First of all, I want to hide this one here, so select this face, go to the vertex select and press H to hide. Now select the top face and we'll subdivide, of course. So right click subdivide, and we can increase the number of cuts here. We can go all the way to 10. This will be not enough, so right click subdivide again. It'll leave us with some smaller faces, and I think this is a nice level of detail for this illustration. So let's now go to the vertex select, enable proportional editing, and let's bring up some of these vertices like this. And here we have some water, so we want to do that here as well. That means we'll need to move this building a little bit here. So let's rotate a little bit. Let's drag a selection around the building objects like this. Let's move this to a front a little bit. And we'll just need to modify this object. So tab in, go to the wireframe view, vertex select these vertices, then GY to move it here. So we have some space for the water there, not much. And now we can go back to the terrain object and let's bring this down. So alt click this loop, shift alt click here, turn off proportional editing for a while and bring this down a little bit. We can do a little bit more maybe, so something like this. Now we can cut here a little bit more into the terrain. So let's select some of these, bring them down and bring them down as well, like that. And now we can enable that proportional editing and move this down like that. So it's more smooth, more seamless here. Something like this. And now we can finish with the terrain in the front as well. So GZ and just do some slight bumps there. We don't need to do anything crazy. Okay, now tab out. I feel like this looks all right, so tab back in. We can select all and Ctrl T to triangulate. It will look a little bit better as a low poly terrain. Now we can create that water there, so Shift S, cursor to world origin. So Shift A, add a plane. Let's look from the top, tab in, and let's scale almost all the way to the edge there, like that. And we can select this edge and double G to slide it there. Okay, and we can select all, move it down. So we create a water surface like this. And now just E, then Z, and extrude this down. And again, A and Shift N to recalculate normals. And I feel like we can make this here a little bit better, but let's leave it like this for now. And let's now create some trees. So first of all, Shift right click here, Shift A, plane, tab in. Let's make this smaller by pressing S, now SX. And vertex select, we can press Ctrl B, then V to enable vertex bevel. Let's make a shape like this here. Now select all, bring this up, tab out, bring this whole object down. Now we can inset this and extrude and move it in place a little bit. And now Shift right click here, press Shift A and add a single vert. And now look from the front and now just press E to extrude some kind of tree shape. Don't give it too much detail. This is just some basic shape. And don't forget to move it in 3D as well. So yeah, something like this. And now we'll add a skin modifier. Press A to select all, Ctrl A to make this smaller. Okay, and now select the bottom vertex. You don't see it, but it's selected. Now we'll enable proportional editing because it applies to the radius as well. Press Ctrl A and scale this with some fall off like this. Okay, and now we can add a subdivision surface with just one level of subdivision, and this will create this strange radius down here, and we can easily fix that if you go to the wireframe modifier and now just extrude this. You will see you will get rid of that, and we can go a little bit down like that. And now let's tab back in and we can select some of these end vertices and press Ctrl A, disable proportional editing and press Ctrl A to make them much smaller. And here we have some strange issue. So let's see what's happening there. I think just the angle and the length is bad here. So if we move it around a little bit, you can find some nice shape. And now let's apply both of those modifiers, and let's add a decimate modifier, and let's bring this down to unsubdivide this a little bit, something like this. Depends on the resolution you want to go. and then click apply, so you have some nice low poly tree. Now for the crown, that'll be easy. We'll just add some icospheres. So shift right click here, press shift A and add an icosphere. Let's make this smaller. I guess this will do for a low poly tree, so shift click the trunk and Ctrl J again to join this. Now the origin point is in the bottom, so we can scale it like this and rotate around, and Alt D to create some linked duplicates. Let's move one of these here, so Alt D, Shift Z, and move it here. Can make this one a little bit larger maybe, and just duplicate some of these trees around. And now let's finish with the water object. So select that, go into the edit mode, and first of all let's press Ctrl R and create two cuts here. So we have square faces here at the top. Select the top faces and create a vertex group. Let's call this surface maybe. And now let's right click and subdivide several times. Depends how detailed you want the waves to be. Now go to the modifiers, add a displace modifier. We'll select the surface vertex group here, add a new texture. Let's select the cloud texture. And we probably forgot to assign this to the surface. Yes. Okay, and now go to modifier settings and reduce the strength. And if there is an issue on the edges there, which will be probably because I forgot that I need to press Ctrl- to reduce this, so I will just remove this vertex group and create it once again and assign those new faces. And now I will select the group here, and this will be okay. So we have our water, the building, everything in place. So the only thing left is that Avengers logo here. So first of all, go to the side view by pressing 3 on the numpad. And now I will drag in a reference image. And I've made this reference as a screenshot from my original model, so you can find it in the description and download the image. And now let's just snap the cursor here, so cursor to select it. Let's look from the side. We can just start tracing this. First of all, press Shift A and add a single vert again. Now go to the vertex select, press G and move this around. Now extrude on the Y, so E then Y. And we'll just trace this out, so we can now close this. It'll give us this shape, and we can help ourselves by making some cuts here and extruding this. Now press S, Y. Okay, and now press E, confirm, S, Z, and EY. So what I did here is I just extruded the edge but confirmed it in the same place, then scaled it on the Z-axis, so it created these birds, and then extruded on the Y-axis. And now we can just press Alt-M and merge these at center. So we have this shape ready. Okay, so we can do one more cut here and extrude this on the Z, so EZ, extrude, SZ to scale. So these are very similar techniques that you can use. And now just Shift D and duplicate this edge here on the Z axis. Select this vertex, extrude on Y, and by holding Control you can snap it here. And now alt click and fill this. So very simple trace. And now let's press Shift A, add a circle, rotate on the Y axis, so RY 90 degrees. Let's make this smaller and move it in place like that, and we can rotate this to match these openings. I think this will be fine. Now we can press F, then I to inset. If it doesn't work, maybe you have a boundary on, so press B to check if you have a boundary enabled. Okay, and now we can move some of these around, so press G twice and make these small adjustments. We really don't need to be too precise here. It goes on a building, it will be really small. Okay, and now we can delete these two faces, so X faces. Okay, and here as well. For some reason there is some... okay, there is a face in the middle, so we'll get rid of that as well. So X and delete faces. Okay, so this is the logo trace, and now we can just extrude this. Press A and Shift N to recalculate normals. We can now get rid of this, and we have some nice logo trace, and we can move it in place. So let's move it to the side here, G and X, and place it on the building. Let's try to scale this down a little bit and maybe move so it doesn't touch the building. Okay, I guess this will be all right. So Shift S cursor to world origin, and I will now use the IsoCam add-on. Again, you can find the link in the description. You can install the add-on by going to preferences and then clicking the install button in the add-on section and locating the zip file or the Python file. And then if you press N, you have this side panel, and you should have this PR IsoCam tab here, and we can add the game IsoCam. Now let's just go to the output tab and modify the resolution here like this. And we'll need one more background plane, so Shift A, add a plane and make this larger. Press G then Z and move this down a little bit like that. So the modeling is ready. Let's now add some materials and set up some lighting. Regarding the materials, this will be fairly easy to do, so let's hold Z and switch to the material preview. Now I will collapse this side panel, and now first I want to set up the background, so we better see what's going on in our scene. And let's create a new material. Let's call this background, and I had that violet color there, so I will stay true to the original here. And now select the terrain object. Let's call this ground, and I will make it green like this. And for the curb, let's create a gray material like that. And for the road, we can select the same material, duplicate this, and make it a little bit darker, maybe. Like that. And here you can see I've messed up with the Boolean object, so let's select that and bring this up so it's higher than the terrain there. Okay, and yeah, how How I didn't see that it was messed up when I placed the trees, I don't know, but we can fix this right now. Okay, and now let's give some gray material here and the lighter material for these surfaces, so like this. Okay, and I will create some metal material there and just give it metallic value of 1, make it a little bit darker maybe, and I will use the same one for these wireframes here and here as well. Now for the building, I will create a wall material and they'll be almost white basically, or it can be white. Let's select this one, let's give it a gray material, tab in and assign a ground material to the face inside like this. Now for the tree we can create a new material, let's call this tree. It'll have some brown color like this, and we can tab in, and with the crown still selected, if you don't have it you can always just hover over and press L. And now let's add the same ground material. I want the same green here, and we can maybe modify that later. And now select this and select these ground vertices, and let's select that darker gray material there. So first we'll select the light one, then add a new material slot and select darker one. Click assign, and maybe we can give some color here as well so we can see that there's some gate or something. And now let's select these roof items and give them some material too, and some of it here as well. Okay, and now for the windows, let's just create really reflective material, so bring down the roughness and make this like dark blue or something. And let's assign it here as well, so new material slot, window, and assign. Okay, now let's add some dark color to this Avenger thing, so you can try the background color, the violet one, maybe it'll look good. And now tab in and we'll select these front faces and do the lighting in a way that we can duplicate this, Shift D, P to separate, and now move this new flat object behind. Like this, and we'll give the emission shader to that. But we can bring this down a little bit, so select this one and press G twice to move it down. Now let's remove the background material and let's create a new material. Let's call this light, and we'll switch this to emission. Let's set strength to 10 or something like that, so we have some nice light there. Okay, now let's look from the camera and let's add some lights. So first of all, I want to add an area light. Let's bring this up, so GZ, let's make this larger. Switch the pivot point to 3D cursor, RX 45 degrees minus RZ 45 degrees. So we rotated it like this. And now let's give it some warm color and bring up the power to something like 1500. And let's enable the scene world and scene lights. So this is starting to look like the original image, I feel. But we'll need some world lighting too, so let's bring this up a little bit, like that. Set some nice blue color there, with some nice strength. And now we'll just create 2 more lights. So Shift D to duplicate this light. RZ, let's do 90 degrees. Let's move this out a little bit, make it larger so it's softer. And we don't need so much of warm light there maybe. And now press Shift D once again, RZ 180 degrees. Maybe we can bring this down a notch, so RX twice to rotate on the local x-axis and bring this down. And here I want a really stronger warm light there. You can see it on the trees, how they got painted with that light, and I really like the result. So yeah, this is the lighting and the materials. The only thing left here is the VTOL there, but obviously we don't have any more time for that. Oh, the one more thing, the water here. Yeah, of course. So let's create a new material. Water. Let's go to the render settings and let's enable some EV options so it looks better, some screen space reflections, bloom and ambient occlusion. And now if we get back to the material, we can enable transmission all the way up to 0.9 or something and bring down the roughness to 0.1. And now if we play with that displace modifier, can see it creates some nice reflections. So let's play with that display strength, and you can always play with the size of the display texture, so you can have like a more subtle waves. Okay, and I don't like we don't see any reflections here, so let's try to move it here like that so we get some of that light reflection. Okay, now press Ctrl B to make a frame around the camera, and I will switch these to cycles. I will switch to GPU compute and let's preview this in cycles. Looks alright, but I forgot to add some color to that water, so let's add some color. Okay, so this is the Avenger building. We can compare a little bit with the original. I know there's more detail here and the layout is a little bit different and stuff, but you know, we have a very limited time here, so I guess this will work nicely. The one last thing to do, if you go to the compositing and enable nodes and then switch to the view layer properties, you can enable denoising data here and add a filter denoise and connect these normal and albedo channels. So this way you will get a much nicer result in the end with the denoising. So yeah, that's it. And again, if you're new to the channel, please hit that subscribe button and the bell button if you want to get notified when I release tutorials like this. Thank you all for watching and have a wonderful day, and I'm looking forward to see your creations on Instagram.